And your name, sir?
My name is Start Loving.
And
Start Loving.
Start Loving. And why are you here in front of the White House?
Because I've lost some of my insanity. Unless the world's leading scientists are wrong, roughly the 3,000 that have devoted their lives to understanding climate science, unless we reduce our use of coal and oil 80% in the next 9 years by the year 2020, then some unimaginably large dams of carbon and methane will break and flood the earth with an amount of carbon and methane that the young people currently alive today and everyone born on Earth will be unable to get out of the atmosphere. I'm referring to the rainforests and to the tundra, the tundra trapping hundreds of billions of tons of methane gas, which is in the process of starting to melt.
Like up in the pole areas. And they can do that at a very fast pace. They can be
unimaginably fast. The calculations are that previous ice ages have come on in less than a decade.
So the consequences, if you're correct, are enormous.
Unless the scientists at MIT, Yale, Harvard, Cambridge, Stanford are wrong, then unless we reduce our use of coal and oil 80% by 2020, by the year 2050, roughly half of the world's species will have gone extinct. By roughly 2050, sea level will have risen roughly 5 feet, which will be death to our coastal cities from San Francisco to New York City to Boston.
Baltimore, down the coast.
An estimated 20 to 30% of every young person's income, lifetime income, will go toward remediating the damage that today we can prevent, and in several years we will be unable to prevent. So you kindly said, if what I say is correct, what I say, it doesn't matter. What the world's leading climate scientists, what all the climate scientists say, is what I'm saying. It's all out there. It's been known for dozens of years, although every year their calculations prove to be incorrect, too conservative. This is happening much faster than any of them anticipated the year before.
Why isn't something done about this then? Why, if the evidence is persuasive, as you say, are these people insane? Why don't they do something about it?
Well, with all due respect, brother, I appreciate your compassionate question. You will be able to answer that for yourself when you go home and look in the mirror and say, why am I living a relatively normal life while this is unfolding? Why aren't I somehow putting my body in the way of this horror and keeping it there every waking moment? And I've asked myself that question because most of my adult life I didn't. I devoted my life to making rich people richer in the computer industry, including me. And it's because I was totally in the embrace of an insane, selfish culture that worships selfishness, and selfishness loves denial. So we don't want to know this stuff. We don't want to see this stuff. Had this generation been the generation that George Washington had to work with, that would be a British flag.
I'm just going to take a look at that.
Had General Eisenhower and FDR had this generation to work with, that would be a Nazi flag. We are my brothers and sisters all, we are the most addicted, clinically insane population there's ever been.
Some people would agree with you with respect to these endless wars, that we don't do anything about that.
Well, thank you, particularly with the part you just said, that we don't do anything about. We talk about it, we'll come out for a weekend like this and do some actions, and then we go home and live our normal lives. That doesn't bring about change. That brings about the status quo, because it takes the energy out of us. Oh, I did something, even though by any calculation it was totally inconsequential, and it assures the insane authorities and powers that are letting this happen, boy, no one's going to stop us. Look at what we can do, and all they're going to do is come out for 4 or 5 days.
The more needs to be done. higher consciousness and action?
Well, in our personal lives, when there's an emergency, let's say something as simple as, oh my God, I have to catch this plane. I'm a half an hour late for getting going. How do I get there? We start with, what time does the plane go? How fast do I have to go? How am I going to make this happen? But when it comes to the issues you and I are discussing, stopping the wars or stopping the destruction of Earth's ability to support human life, what we start with is, well, let's see now. How much time can I afford to take away from my job? What would be convenient? What would feel good? What will people pay attention to? We don't start with what will it take and work back from there. And change never comes from that methodology. What is it going to take? And whether or not I'm going to fail, by God, I'm going to try. I have no illusion that I'm going to stop it here. But my calculation is, what might I do that might best stand in the way of this evil? And this is where my calculation has me.
Okay, now how would you just sum up your message then to the public? Sum it up.
I would sum it up that if you think you have any compassion for any young person in your life or anyone who will ever be born, then you Google Plan B 3.0. It's a book written by a man and a team that I have little regard for because they're not living the emergency. But they have way more constructively than anyone else laid out where we're headed, which is to see civilization globally implode under the destruction of Earth's ability to support human life within the lifetime of every young person, and B, that it is totally stoppable. We have 200 times more sun and 8 times more wind in this country. Then we need to replace every lump of coal and every drop of oil with today's technology. We need no more new technology. All we need to do is apply what we have, and it's cheaper. None of our children need to die in the Middle East for Arizona sun and Midwest wind. And it is objectively and quantifiably cheaper if we put at the pump, for example, the cost of our $200 billion a year that we spend so that ExxonMobil and Shell can make profit on that oil instead of harnessing our wind and our sun. If we look at the health costs of the 12 to 13,000 Americans that we kill every year with our burning of coal for electricity, if we put those health costs and those war costs at the pump, we're looking at $15 a gallon per year in gas. Objective, absolute costs that our children are currently now going to pay. If we start paying it, we run to harness our wind and sun. We need to stop the accounting scam, and if that means putting our lives on the line and our lives on hold like my parents' generation to stop the Nazi threat, we should do it with great glee.
Okay. Give me your name again.
My name is Start Loving. If you Google it, my YouTube, blog, and Facebook come up, pointing to all the mainstream science that has me doing what I'm doing, which is on day 40 of a 0-calorie hunger strike where I'm taking water and vitamins.
Thanks so much, and good luck to you, sir.
Thank you, brother.